You never expect your life to change in a grocery store checkout line. Not between the candy bars and the impulse buy magazines. Not while the scanner beeps and people sigh behind you. But sometimes, the smallest moments carry the biggest lessons if you're willing to see them. This is a story about a handful of coins, a quiet smile, and a man who thought success had already taught him everything. What he learned that day would follow him for the rest of his life. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional stories that remind us of the power of kindness, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. You're watching Heartfelt Moments, where simple human stories leave a lasting impact. The man standing near the end of the checkout aisle didn't look like someone who had time for small talk. He wore a tailored suit, an expensive watch, and the calm, distant expression of someone used to being in control. His name was Daniel Harper, and he was the CEO of a fast-growing retail company with stores across the country. Daniel rarely shopped in person. Most days, assistants handled errands. But that afternoon, after a long board meeting, he stopped by one of his own stores on a whim. He wanted to see how things really worked, without anyone preparing for his arrival. He stood quietly, observing. The shelves were neat. The store was clean. Everything looked the way it should. Then he noticed the woman at the register. She was maybe in her late 60s, wearing a faded blue sweater and worn shoes. Her gray hair was neatly tied back, and she held a small basket with just a few items: bread, soup, a carton of milk, and a small packet of tea. When the cashier told her the total, the woman nodded softly and reached into her purse. Instead of a credit card, she pulled out coins, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. She laid them carefully on the counter, one by one, counting under her breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face remained calm. When she finished counting, she looked up and smiled. "I hope that's enough," she said gently. The cashier checked the total again. She hesitated. "It's short by 87 cents, the cashier said, not unkindly, but loud enough for the line to hear. The woman's smile faltered for just a second. She looked down at her purse and searched again, slower this time. After a moment, she shook her head. "That's all right," she said softly. "You can take the tea back." She slid the packet toward the cashier, still smiling, as if apologizing for the inconvenience. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was discomfort, the kind that comes when something doesn't fit neatly into your world. Before he could think too much, he stepped forward. "I've got it," he said. Both the cashier and the woman looked up. Surprised, Daniel placed a dollar bill on the counter. "Please. Let her keep it." The woman turned to him, her eyes wide. "Oh no, you don't have to do that," she said quickly. "I know," Daniel replied. "But I'd like to." For a moment, she studied his face. Then she nodded. "Thank you," she said, her voice warm. "That's very kind." As the cashier finished the transaction, the woman gathered her bag. Before leaving, she turned back to Daniel. "You know," she said, "people think kindness has to be big. But most days, it's just enough." Then she smiled again and walked out. Daniel stood there longer than he meant to. Her words echoed in his mind. Most days, it's just enough. That night, he couldn't sleep. That he kept thinking about the way she counted her coins so carefully. The way she gave up her tea without complaint. The way she smiled, not out of pride, but out of grace. Daniel had built his career on numbers. Profit margins. Growth charts. Quarterly earnings. He believed success meant efficiency, speed, and constant improvement. Kindness, to him, had always been a personal trait, not a business one. But now he wasn't so sure of the next week. Daniel asked his assistant to help him find the woman. It wasn't easy, but eventually they learned her name was Margaret. She lived nearby and shopped at the store every Wednesday. When Daniel returned the following week, he didn't wear his suit. He dressed casually and waited. Margaret appeared right on time, holding the same small basket this time. Daniel approached her before she reached the register. "Hi," he said gently. "I don't know if you remember me." She looked at him, then smiled. "You're the man with the dollar." He laughed softly. "Yes. That's me." They talked for a few minutes. Margaret told him she was a retired school lunch aide. Her husband had passed away years earlier. She lived on a fixed income and budgeted carefully. But she didn't complain. "I've had a good life," she said. "And I still have good days." Daniel listened. Truly listened. Something he realized he hadn't done enough of in years. Before they parted, he asked her a question: "What keeps you smiling?" Margaret thought for a moment. "Kindness," she said. "Both giving it and receiving it. It reminds you that you're not alone." That conversation changed Daniel. Over the next few months, he made quiet changes in his company. He raised wages at the lowest level. He added employee assistance programs. He encouraged managers to listen, not just lead. He started a fund to help customers in need, no questions asked. He never announced these changes publicly. He didn't want praise. He just remembered a woman paying with coins and a smile. Years later, at a company gathering, Daniel shared this story for the first time. Not as a CEO, but as a man who had learned something late, but not too late. He ended with this: "Success taught me how to build a business. But kindness taught me why it matters." So the next time you're in a hurry, or standing in line, or tempted to look away from someone else's struggle, remember this: kindness doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it's just enough, and that can change everything. If this story touched you, carry it forward. Share a smile. Offer help. Pay attention. You never know whose life or whose heart you might change next.